Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Radio Rowe with your oftentimes, most times host, Matthew Stillman. Today, I'm lucky enough to be here with Laura King, who will be coming to Rowe soon, June 13th, 14th, and 15th, for her Women's Regenerative Weekend in person. Always lucky to be able to do in-person things. Hi, Laura. Thanks so much for coming on the Radio Rowe video audio podcast situation.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to be here with you.
Absolutely a pleasure. So the way that I like to start all these conversations is in an improvisational way by doing some bibliomancy. So there's this book here called Home Ground, Language for American Landscape. It's edited by Barry Lopez, one of the great nature writers of all time, in my estimation. I know that certainly in your weekend, you're going to be engaging with nature in different ways for writing prompts and in relation with it. So there are short definitions of all kinds of parts of a landscape. So what I'd love for you to do is pick a number between 1 and 398, and I'm going to read you the beautiful description of some part of the landscape, whatever you pick, and just reflect on it without trying to make it into what your workshop is about. Just like your own personal reflections or experiences with it or thoughts about.
Great. How about 21?
21, sure. And there it is, right on 21, the word bank. And it says this: the high ground abutting a waterway, lake, arterial, or other agent of transport is called a bank, as in steam bank or road bank or river bank. Material may also be stacked, blown, or plowed and said to be banked, as in a snowbank. Bank slopes vary from the angles of repose, around 35 degrees on a loose established bank, to a much steeper incline, as when firm material is scooped out abruptly by a flood. When the cut exceeds 90 degrees, a bank becomes an overhang. Left and right banks are also called with respect to downstream directions. The term also refers to a bank of vegetation growing on a soil slope, as Darwin described in the graceful penultimate paragraph of The Origin of Species. It is interesting to contemplate a tangled bank and to reflect that these elaborately constructed forms have all been produced by laws acting around us. Bank also refers to a submerged plateau, shelf, or shoal, relatively shallow but navigable, such as one famously productive Grand Banks off of Newfoundland. So, that's beautiful. What about you and banks, or this description of banks, or river banks, or snow banks? I don't know. Where do banks take you?
I love it. So many places. Yeah, it takes me away from the bank where one deposits money. So thank you for reading that.
Sure,
that
of
was
course.
that was my first thought of like, oh gosh. Yeah, so the riverbank really connects with me, the idea of the boundaries, the edges as the river flows, and for the river to flow, right, it's life-giving and generative, the movement of water, and essential, and the riverbank guides it and is there for it, is the boundaries, and thus the river bends and turns, and so thinking about my life, and as my life bends and turns in unexpected ways, it's the river banks that the boundaries there that were there. So thinking about that, and a lot of work I do with just finding the edges, like where are my edges, and do I want to expand my edges? Do I want to,
or where do those edges hold you?
Yeah, that it holds you. And then you can relax because I know the edges, right? And I can flow in the river with ease and grace, and with the natural flow of that.
Yeah, and of course, I'm glad that you've leapt to making, riverbanks, in this case, a metaphor. Are there particular riverbanks that you've known, that you've walked, that have meant something to you?
I think
or snowbanks, or
both. I mean, the river, I like to be near water. I like to cold plunge in water. I actually have memories of being at Rowe with a little waterfall at the entrance there.
Right at the edge of Old Kings Highway Road.
Yeah. So have a lot of memories of freedom that comes from plunging in water and just saying yes to this. And the edges, yeah, thinking of rivers as a kid, my house was on a river, and a lot of snapping turtles around the edges. So it wasn't exactly it was a river that said, ah, yeah, this bank, there's
No further.
yeah, stop here, child.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Well, also,
Um,
as you're saying this, it makes me think just when you evoke the turtles, and again, we're coming at this metaphorically, and certainly will come to the time that you'll be gathering together in Rowe, um, is that, a difference between a pipe and a river is that they both are water delivery systems, so to speak. But a pipe,
mm,
and there's not, look, we need pipes. I'm glad for pipes in the world, but they
mm,
don't nutrify or enliven the spaces in between one end and the other. Whereas a
mm,
river, in its windy bendiness and its slowness and its stalledness and its relationship with the banks and its relationship
mm,
with stone and its own wateriness, it makes the place in between it alive.
mm. Oh, yes, right. Yeah, the richness of that transitional space, right, from the land to the river. And so the bank
All of
is
it,
the
yeah.
rich. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask, so thank you for those reflections, and maybe we'll find a way that they connect to other things you and I will talk about, or not. They don't have to, but just, it's a little, people who've never had a chance to come to Rowe or to meet you before, have a little bit of sense of, oh, right, we don't need to automatically leap right into the thing that we're talking about, and you get to hear a little bit about who you are and how you reflect about things and what you've thought about and experienced. And so, without trying to make anyone have a particular experience of you,
Mm,
it's a little bit of like, oh, right, we don't need to, we can proceed slowly and come in
mm,
sideways a little bit,
mm,
but
mm.
not so sideways that nothing's happening. So,
Oh, love it.
yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask you, for this weekend that you're going to be having, June 13th, 14th, and 15th, Women's Regenerative Weekend, you start off with a description of it, about, well, let me just read specifically what it says, because I thought it was lovely. Um, it says about these sparks and embers and kindling and
Mm,
starting a fire,
mm,
um, in one's, yeah, join if you're seeking connection and growth and ready to rekindle your inner flame. Let's celebrate what happens as these inner sparks ignite and spread. And so, again, that's a metaphorical leap. So, I mean, there might actually be physical fires there. Um, but it's really easy to say, like, hey, we're going to be gathering a bunch of people over a weekend and
mm,
we're going to make a community. But,
mm,
the chances are of these people like being a long-term community, not that it's
mm.
impossible, but it's likely to be a kissing of 3 days together. Um, I don't know, what's your sense of what fire tending in these times and in these spaces, what does that look like? Because it can so often look like we're just going to pound you into and having a big, hard, amazing, big experience.
Mm,
Or the way that you're describing it is like, oh, you know what? Little sparks, little nests of tinder, and just enough friction to make a small fire here that we might
mm.
warm ourselves around. So, what's your experience? You certainly have facilitated lots of women in groups through these types of experiences. Yeah, tell us a little bit what that looks like to gather people in like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's coming together as a group where I don't have like a deep curriculum of like, hey, we're going to follow these steps.
Sure,
But I,
of course.
what I do is draw out the group, and I have and help the participants learn how to really listen to each other in a way that might not be habitual or might not be their pattern. So it's playing with how we are as a circle of women and how we really tune in as each other shares with some provocative prompts. What does this person really want me to know?
Mm,
And
yeah,
so it's listening through the layers of what's real and true for each other. And in that way, the sharing and the connection has the potential to be a lot deeper
yeah,
and such. And so I think in the decades of work with women, just seeing how it's sometimes feeling alone or unsure, And then coming together and seeing, beneath the surface, look how much commonality there is here between us. So in that way, seeing how the sparks spread between the women through this group sharing process and reflective listening.
Yeah, and so that's, maybe part of the restore part. You have renew, revive, and restore.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I suppose it's easy to say we live in troubled times, and maybe everyone's always lived in troubled times, but I don't know, without trying to make it seem overly special, that there are some unique undoingnesses that are happening now. What made it seem to you that this particular type of gathering was relevant now, without trying to speak to any particular political issues or particular economic issues? Though, please feel free. I don't want to censor you, and I know I won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to say, there's a lot of things that could happen, but maybe there's a particular type of weariness or exhaustion or lifelessness that you're sort of sensing that are in the current right now, that you're responding to or hearing enough that you feel like you can walk shoulder to shoulder with, as opposed to fix.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot there. I think so much of our habits and patterns when we're stressed is to fix and to problem solve and fix. And so I think what I'm noticing is a lot of us are really busy taking action and showing up for groups that we really believe in and our loved ones right now.
Yeah.
And we can do our best work when we get quiet and reset and recharge and center ourselves of, where am I really exhausted and frustrated and overwhelmed? And can we tend to that in a circle of women in some stillness to get really clear of what do I really desire and long for? And in that way, reset and get really clear as we go back out into the world and do some beautiful heart-centered work and important work that's really dear in our communities and our families and such.
No, that's touching. When you say, our best work, it's of course it's a conflicted sense, because sometimes best can mean maximized, optimized, most productive, and then also, which is not a problem, because like we need that in the world too. And at the same time, I mean, look, I've never been a woman, I never will be, but I certainly have known enough women who say like, oh God, the oppression of always having to be on and productive and doing everything and being the best at everything. Oh, what is your sense of maybe the proper tension between these different types of bests, because there are different kinds?
Yeah, it is a tension. I'm so glad you're naming that. For me, it's like, is it aligned with my truth and my heart? Am I aligned? My best and authentically me. And so much we're taught to, as women, to socialize to be a certain way. And in this circle, when we're together in a space just for us, it's really beautiful to play with some boundaries of how do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And where is the choice here? And really working with our beliefs and asking ourselves, what are some beliefs I have cultivated for myself as I define my life and my success? What is my definition of my success? And for me, it would be, can I live and lead as a relaxed woman? And that is my idea of success for me. It's not anybody else's. But when I dial into that and tune into that, the rest falls into place. And the socialized idea of success finds its place, but it's much smaller. And what's much larger is me being true to me and bringing my best self, because she's relaxed, centered, contemplative, and thus has energy to give and change and support others.
Yeah, where she chooses to, as opposed to reflexively. And there's a place for reflexive too. And of course, you mentioned beliefs, and of course, one can have an active belief, and there could be beliefs that you don't realize that you have, because sometimes those show up in practices, like what you actually are doing. like, well, I believe this, but I'm actually doing something else. So,
Mm,
like you said, you don't have a script exactly for the weekend. That you may have a sense of, we're sort of pointing in this direction, but we'll see where we get to. Um,
mm,
Maybe if you'd say a little bit about what you see about the relationship between beliefs and practices in the way that you
mm,
work with women, and maybe some ideas about that for this weekend for restoration and reviving and
mhm.
renewing with these women. But beliefs and practices, I think, are really relevant because we all have great beliefs. What the hell are we actually doing?
Yeah, exactly right. It's yeah, so our beliefs, our values, our self-talk is actually impacting what I'm doing, right? My
Yeah,
perceptions, my mindset, my beliefs. So a lot of the work I do is getting really curious about our habits and patterns and our beliefs. And so asking ourselves, are there limiting beliefs that I'm ready to let go of, right? Are
yeah,
there beliefs that are keeping me small? Are there beliefs that guide me to never speak up at a meeting, or that I don't ask for what I need and want in certain relationships?
yeah,
So what are my beliefs? Is it that certainty is good for me, or is it embracing a world that is truly uncertain? And am I controlling what's in my control, or trying to control things that are not in my control? And I would suggest if we start there and notice that then leads me to beliefs I have, or beliefs that are driving me that I'm not even aware they're actually driving me.
right. We might find ourselves in a pipe trying to get from point A to point B, as opposed to being in a river where we don't know exactly, but there's something a bit more
Ah,
alive and vital.
yeah, yeah, and it might feel like, this is familiar. This was needed at some point in my life,
Yeah,
but right now I could choose to spread out and enjoy the ride in the river.
yeah.
Yeah.
May it be so. May it be so.
Mm,
Well, that's lovely. Um, in this particular weekend, well, I don't know how many of these types of weekends or workshops or gatherings you've facilitated before, but over the arc, um, what are some of the tent poles, some of the signposts, some of the cairns that you've seen along the way? Like, oh yeah, these are these are some of the forces that I've seen been playing through over the years, that have changed, that have moved, like without having it seem like there's a destination that you're trying to go for. But what have you seen as over the 10 or 15 or the 20? I don't know. You tell me.
yeah,
But some of
yeah,
those things, like, oh yeah,
yeah.
here's what I'm seeing women are looking at or seeing, and what's changing and what's present.
Mm, mm. Yeah, what a great question.
I'm trying over
What's
here. I'm trying,
Yeah,
Laura.
yeah. Well, what's fascinating is we're all in a river,
Yeah,
the women, all of us, right? If we're all in
yeah,
a river of life that's flowing, um, I'm in the river too. So as I answer this question, I too am changing, evolving, growing. So what I'm noticing today is
yeah.
very different than 20 years ago, what I was tuning into and what I was paying attention to.
Mm,
And so I think 20 years ago, I was looking for the riverbank from the river and saying, this is too fast. What can I hold on to and cling to and hold so tight? Because I wanted to know what was next. I wanted to know if it was going to be safe. And so as my journey on the river is what I'm paying attention to is, can I now look up, see the stars, see the light, and say, hey, it doesn't serve me to hold on to the riverbank. Life is moving forward. I
yeah,
can't control this, but I'm looking up and noticing the birds and the sky and the light. Whereas before I was probably noticing how fast it was going and could I please just hold on and be in control of my life.
yeah,
And thus people around me 20 years ago would
yeah.
have felt somebody who was a little controlling, like in how I showed up, how I led, how I
Sure.
parented. And so now realizing like, oh, each day I choose today, my thoughts, my actions, and that creates my tomorrow. I'm having a fun ride on the river and I am not holding on.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing like, yeah, this is living. This is life. I don't know. And can I enjoy the ride of it all? And so as I've changed, I'm noticing women at different parts of their journey as I coach folks, as I lead retreats and gather women in circles, and noticing the range of, we're all on a different place in the river for very different reasons.
Yeah, or different rivers.
Yeah, and some are at a trickle, some are raging rapids.
Sure.
Some women hold on for safety, and some let go and wish they could hold on to something, and they're not sure what to hold on to.
Yeah.
And I would suggest wherever they are in the journey, I feel like I can, through this practice of listening, reflecting, and such, as like, I sense what's coming up for you, and training our group to listen to each other in that way. And in thus doing, seeing where the range is for them of what to hold a little tighter and what to let go of.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Also, you wrote for this retreat. I mean, journaling is a well-tried practice for all kinds of people in these gatherings together. And you mentioned writing prompts a few times before. What are some of your experiences, or why do you think that that sort of relationship between hand and heart, and paper and pen, or the quill tip and papyrus, or however you want to go, whatever, I don't know what people's journals like, or scrolls. I mean, is anyone writing with a quill? I hope so. What is it about that connection that you find vital and useful? Not that you need to have a new take on it, although maybe you do, what do I know? But what is it about that particular type of connection that you find worth going to again and again?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And what related to it is language and meaning making, how we make meaning of things and use language. And poetry is related to this for me, this idea that poetry is language against which we have no defenses.
Oh, yes.
And it's related. So if you read a poem to a group, you're getting closer to the heart and not of the head, right? So you're accessing.
If you're lucky, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I play with that of like, what are some poems that might take your breath away? And everyone's different, but if you catch your breath while somebody's reading a poem, I feel like you have your teacher and such, and to spend some time with this poem and such. Then using language, poetry, and some really wide writing prompts of asking people, as I ask a series of questions that goes broader and deeper into the river, we could say, into some rapids perhaps, and noticing and asking them to not stop writing, to just what comes to mind, because then it's accessing our inner wisdom and inner truth that's not screening itself as I have to keep my pen moving. And so often that's where we uncover something we might have not talked about so quickly, but there might be some truth that reveals itself to us.
Lovely. Is there a particular, not a poem that you plan to use, but is there a particular poem that you have on your tongue that's one that you sort of touch and pick up like a rosary bead for the jaw? Like, yeah.
I'm a huge, I actually have so many.
I'm sure you do. I teach a course in poetry memorization and recitation. Poetry is the thing that's really important to me. So
yeah, for me, one is David White, Start Close In.
Oh yeah.
That would be one that in this world where so much is coming at us and we tend to go so fast, how can we slow down and get curious again, get creative and create connections? And so playing with that poem, Start Close In, what's close to you right now and what's true for you, is a powerful one that has been one of my teachers for sure.
No, well, just as you mentioned it, it makes me think of Wordsworth's "The world is too much with us." Do you know it?
I am not that familiar. I know I've heard of it, but I couldn't recall it. I'd love, what would you share about it?
The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the wind that it will be howling at all hours, are upgathered now like upturned flowers, and for everything we're out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan, suckled in a creed outworn. And so might I, standing by this pleasantly, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. Have sight of old Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
Ah, wow, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
What a gift, I think, to hear language that really touches us and matters to us, and then to share that, and there's a ripple effect from that sharing.
I couldn't agree more. It means so much, and I love that you used the word touching, because so often, I'm sure you will know something about this, you can reduce the distance between two people to zero, and there's no touching that happens. There's just proximity. And look, there's a place for proximity too. But to try to touch someone is different than it being an emergent quality, like, oh wow, we just found ourselves being touched by each other. There's no script to being touched.
No, yeah, right. It's almost the opposite. The scriptedness is a little arrogant, right? It might
Yeah.
imagine that I know more, I know answers, and I know you. And
Yes.
if I can let that go and say, can I feel you? Can I sense you? Can I tune into you in the group? And in this way, like you said, what is emerging between us?
Yeah. Or not even can I, although can I, but would I be lucky enough to? Will it happen? I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
And will it look different than, yeah.
Yeah. And especially, right now there's so much worries, there's so much to be afraid of. And so can we slow down in each other's presence and reset with and just notice, like, this fear, where there's fear, there's room for courage, right? So
Yeah.
could we get quiet and slow it down in community, and in this way see what courage emerges for each of us to go do what's true for us authentically.
Yeah. Well, Laura, you have renew, restore, and revive.
Yeah.
What are 7 others? We have a top 10 of other re's that could possibly be included here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a countdown. So that's
Okay.
that's 1, 2, and 3. Renew, revive, restore. Great. But so now 4 through 10, we're just gonna go through just so other people know, like, because you might think, all right, I've heard those ones before, but what other re's are there?
All right. I think if it, like, regenerative, do we have
4,
that?
yes, okay, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Retreat.
5, yep, okay.
Is relational, does that count?
Absolutely, yeah. 6. I mean, it's a re, yeah.
Yeah. No, I just didn't want to. Yeah, that's a huge one. At the heart of my work is relational work. Relaxed.
7. Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, we got to get to 10. Reimagine.
8. Yeah. Okay.
Rethink.
9.
Respect.
10.
Respect.
Look at you. This
Okay.
is so great. This is so great. So, Laura, let me just, as we draw towards the end, but not at the end. If you were a woman who's hearing this, and you were listening to all the conversation that you and I have had, and you've gone to rowecenter.org and you've looked at this description and seen your face, what sort of tics might someone feel in their own being that might be a sign? This might be for me, in the same way that the person who has a fine enough ear knows by the sound of particular birds, oh, there's probably a storm coming, I should go inside, or not, or something else. But what sort of tics in the heart might be a sign this might be for you? It doesn't mean you'll definitely come, but I should look again. Your sense of it.
Love it. And with your bird metaphor, I love the idea is, am I feeling in my life I'm spreading my wings large enough, wide enough
Hmm.
to soar at the heights I want to soar and fly at the heights I want to fly?
Yeah.
Am I feeling I'm taking up all my space and finding contentment? So this idea of yeah, do I feel like I want to explore different perspective, different views as a bird would looking down,
Yeah.
at this one precious life. And there's a,
Oh, you
um,
marry Oliver. Yeah.
well, actually, a very, well, yeah, like, is it, what makes me come alive?
Sure.
And do I want more? Am I saying, I want to be more alive? And actually, I'm going to use a Mary Oliver quote, but she talks about being married to amazement.
Yeah, she does.
And that rings true for me as a woman who's been divorced. And so even her language as a bride married to amazement is
Yeah.
an interesting language for me. But it's like, how could I find my way as a mom, being married, being divorced, and being happily in this next chapter of life? Could I be and live married to amazement? And that yeah, and most women I work with in community, we find what that is for ourselves, because we're fearless together in this like the embers by the bonfire. It
Hmm.
feels safe to say the truth of what's really on my heart right now.
Oh, thank you for that. Um,
Mm,
and man, I have to say, I love the Mary Oliver back roads, the ones that are not often traveled. Um,
mm,
and man, she could write about poetry like nobody's business. Her book on poetry, it's
mm.
great. Everyone sort of like knows like the 10 big hits, which are like,
Yeah.
I'm not at war with those, but man, the back roads, like the less read, oh man, there's some
Mm,
good stuff there. But thank you for reminding us about the bonfire and the embers and the small thing where we began. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And you know what that reminds me of is I've come to Rowe at different times in my life when things felt great and when things felt hard.
yeah,
And during the pandemic, I really was tuning into Rowe a lot with this work on poetry with Kim Rosen,
oh yeah,
saved by a
my
poem,
poem, yeah,
and also the grief work of what needs to die in me to be fully alive, and that
sure,
grief work of can I explore death to be more alive. And so it keeps me in this orbit with Rowe, that that's been a gift to me, to all of this interweaving language, meaning making, and beautiful teachers
oh yeah,
at
that's
Rowe.
lovely. Yeah, I've never crossed paths with Kim Rosen in Rowe, though I did do some work with her in Quebec once upon a time and done grief work. And grief, of course, is the twin of loving life. There's no grief without loving, and there's no love
Mm,
without uh,
mm,
grief, because you recognize the tenderness of the thing you're loving.
mm,
So I'm glad that those are present too, because
mm,
all of us must proceed in the presence of the absence of some things. So maybe that's some of
mm,
the ticks of these birds. Like, oh yeah, there's a longing for the thing that which is absent, and not that you'll find it with these women
mm,
and with you on
mm.
the weekend of June 13th, 14th, and 15th, but maybe you'll find something that will be not to fill it, to be next to some of those vacancies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Well, Laura King, I'm so glad to have spent this time with you. All blessings on you, into your hands, into your home.
Mm,
And
mm.
yeah, with any luck, I'll have a chance to cross paths with you in person and not just on the internet. But
Great.
women of the world, please go to rowecenter.org, take a look at this workshop and other ones too, but certainly with Laura for that heart of June, the Ides of
Mm.
June. Um,
Thank you.
of course. And until next time, rowecenter.org, Radio Row. Good to be with y'all. Until next time.
Mm. Thank you so much.